Welcome to the Travel Coach Network podcast. It is I, Sahara Rose DeVore, the founder of the Travel Coach Network and the creator and instructor of the Travel Coach Certification Program. In today's episode, I'm going to be diving deep into who I am, how I got my start in the not only tourism industry, but the travel coaching and the wellness industry as well, and give you a little bit more of about me. I grew up as an only child to a single mom. I am from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So vacations to us were in the family van going from Milwaukee, driving with my entire family, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, either down to southern tip of Texas to visit my grandmother's family. She is originally from Mexico, and then going over the border to go visit her family that is in Mexico. A lot of my aunts and uncles moved to across the border and lived in southern Texas as well. So I'd spend every summer down there, and then we take our family van and also drive from Wisconsin up across the border of Canada to visit my grandfather's family in Montreal. So but I was so young, I didn't remember most of that. I wasn't in a family that was talking about travel. We didn't talk about plans and destinations and vacations or going to Italy or going to Europe, like anything like that. And it just wasn't something I thought about. Plus, we grew up in a very middle class family, kind of to the lower class as well, where we were using food pantries in order to hopefully get food for dinner. And my mom was working so hard. I'd stay with my grandparents often. And if I didn't eat there, I wasn't going to have food until the next day if we didn't have dinner at my grandparents' place. And so she struggled. So I grew up watching my mom struggle for a really long time. So things like money and vacation and holidays just never really were on my radar. And I also, throughout school, was never someone who knew exactly what I wanted to do. I had so many friends in high school. Maybe some of you can relate to this. And I had many friends in high school who knew kind of what path they were going to take, what college they were going to go to, or university, and whether some wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer or a dentist or a veterinarian, a teacher, whatever it might be. I just never knew, which was okay, especially in high school. So I knew that I wanted to get away from the cold of Wisconsin when I went to university. And so I decided to go to Arizona State, across the country. I wanted to be around new people and meet new people and be in a new environment with warmer weather. And within college, luckily you have to take some prerequisite courses in order to, before you have to actually like specify in a major, right? So I think I took a lot of general courses, psychology and everything like that, but I still struggled for a long time. I toyed around with different ideas. I went into their business program and journalism program, which I did enjoy. But then my mom was going through a divorce 2 years into university, of my university. So I decided that I was going to change schools and move back to the Midwest. And I decided to go to Chicago because it was, again, a bigger city. And I had never been there, but I wanted to explore and see opportunities and what exists out there other than what Milwaukee could offer me at the time. So I was looking at what kind of schools there were. And I came across a hospitality and tourism program within a smaller school, much smaller than what Arizona State was. And I applied and I got in. So I had one day to find an apartment and I went there. And that's really was the catalyst to my interest in traveling when I joined the program, because I said, hey, like, who doesn't like travel, right? That sounds really appealing. And I was really inspired about my first day of my international tourism course, where my professor had us all go around the room and introduce ourselves and talk about where we're from and how many countries we've been to. And in that class, there were a lot of foreign exchange students and many from Europe and Southeast Asia, where I got to hear how easy it was to travel from country to country. So here I am sitting with a classroom full of people who have traveled to 10, 15, 20 and more countries. And I was just in awe. And I said, I want to be able to do that. But then I remembered I was a broke college student living in Chicago in $1,000 apartment at the time, which is probably very cheap at the moment now. Back then it was not. And I I had no idea how to make this happen. I was helping my mom out financially a lot. I didn't have someone to turn to help me fund my travels, which was totally okay. I was so used to being able to figure things out on my own. That's always kind of been my motto in life, is to figure things out, always figure things out. And in that first day, I had this idea that I was going to change my mindset around money and my time. And I set a goal that when I graduated, I wanted to travel. And I always heard about people backpacking Europe. And that was something that I heard about when I was in high school. And my best friend at the time and I were talking about maybe taking a gap year between high school and university, and things just didn't work out between our friendship. And so it kind of fell through. But I was also, being an only child, never really needed someone to go with me places. And I never really depended on people for many things. So I was totally okay with going by myself, despite never traveling anywhere by myself, especially abroad. And I decided to, after university, I saved enough money. I think I saved like $20,000, which was pretty much, it was a lot for living in Chicago, the expenses for living there and transportation and food. But I started working in the restaurant industry, which was very lucrative for me. And I was also working flexible jobs like flipping furniture I found in our recycling room. And I'd make, 25 bucks here and there, 50 bucks here and there. I was selling some of my art pieces. I was doing a lot of babysitting and nannying in between my restaurant hours for families that had, pretty deep pockets. And I just kind of found jobs that I really loved and jobs that I enjoyed doing. I was doing a lot of staffing agency jobs too. So I got to choose what events I wanted to work because I wanted to gain exposure and meet people within the different companies and hotels and the industry within Chicago. So I got to work conventions and work with a wide range of companies and got paid pretty well doing that too. So I took a look at my schedule and I filled it as much as I could with really lucrative jobs and fun jobs. And that's how I was able to save enough money. I changed how I used my money and how I made and managed my money as well. So I think I saved like $20,000 to $25,000 upon graduating. I was 22 years old, and that's the time in your life when everyone tells you to kind of figure out your life path and asks you, what are you going to do now? Who are you going to work for? What kind of job you're going to have? And I had none of those answers. Despite having I went through this great hospitality and tourism program. I had this degree. I just did not know. I know, but at the time I knew what I didn't want as well. And I knew that I did not want someone dictating when I could take a vacation and when I couldn't, because I had kind of dealt with that in the restaurant industry, right? Most of the restaurants I worked with, they kind of knew how my style and lifestyle was. I'd come and go when I wanted. I'd request off, and I'd work a lot of seasonal restaurants too. So I had the flexibility in that. Or I quit and I go to another restaurant, right? But I had experienced sometimes that they said, no, you can't take more than 2 weeks off or something like that. But I knew that if I wanted to do something in my life and at that age, I should be able to do it. And I knew that in a career moving forward, I didn't want that. I didn't want someone to tell me when I could go on a vacation and how long I could go for and anything. So I knew that the corporate world wasn't going to work for me. I could not sit at a desk all day long. And even though, that is what some people do prefer and they need the structure like that, but I just had more of a free spirit in the sense that I needed to have flexibility in my life. And I wanted to also learn and explore, because at 22 years old, remember, we've been institutionalized our whole life, right? We've grew up with our family and our parents telling us what we can and can't do. We went to schools telling us what we can and can't do. We went to high school telling us what we can and can't do. We went to university telling us what we can and can't do. Now we're free. Now it's time to spread our wings and soar. But we're still babies at 22 years old with little experience and exposure and really learning life's lessons. And I just had an intuition that I knew that. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what kind of life I wanted to have. I didn't know who I wanted to be, who I didn't want to be, what mattered to me, what didn't matter to me, what I valued, what I didn't value. I didn't really have a full grasp on that yet. And that comes with time, and that comes with meeting people and having experiences and everything, right? We learn as we grow and we shape. When you think about who you are when you are, 15 compared to when you were 10, and then when you're 18 compared to when you're 15, and then when you're 21 compared to when you're 18, and then at 22 compared to when you're 18, and then when you hit 30 compared to when you're 20, right? We always think that at every age we know it all and we're the best we're going to be. That's not true. Life is going to change. The universe is going to send us different things, and we're going to go through a journey in life that we never saw coming, because we can't foresee the future. We don't know who's going to come into our life and what's going to happen or not happen yet, right? And I knew that. I had this feeling that, okay, I know what I don't want to do with my life, but I want to figure out what I do want to do. Granted, a big piece that I often leave out, though, is talking about the mental health issue. I've always struggled with really bad anxiety. I've always had very strange tendencies centered around anxiety. And at that time when I was graduating university, I think all the pressures were coming to me to figure things out. And finances had always been a pressure for me as well. And that was always kind of a spark to my anxiety too. So I was in not a very good state mentally. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I had this urge to get away. I had an urge to flee. It sounds really bad, but I just needed to go somewhere. And when we think about it, people have a fight or flight reaction to everything. And my reaction is to physically leave things. When I'm uncomfortable, I go somewhere else. When I'm uncomfortable, I go somewhere else mentally. And I was at a stage in my life when I was 22 or 22, 23, that I was dealing with really bad anxiety. I had some panic attacks that I'd never experienced before, and bouts of depression where I just never saw that within myself. And even though travel's not a cure for anything, I had a feeling that I wanted to get away. I didn't know where I wanted to go or what I was going to do or anything, but that's the time that I said, okay, I'm going to start traveling. And I bought so I remembered that idea of backpacking Europe. I'd heard people have done it. I was like, it must be possible. I heard of these things called hostels. So I bought a one-way ticket to Ireland. I chose Ireland because I was going to Europe for two reasons. One is I had a guy my mom was dating at the time. He had friends in Ireland that he used to work with. A very nice family, and they said that I could stay with them. And also I kind of wanted to work my way inland. So I started with Ireland, then went to England, and then went to the mainland. And so I said, okay, well, it'd be a good cushion to stay with somebody or a family who could show me around on my very first trip. And so I went, and I remember the feeling of the moment I got off the plane going to Ireland. And I said, I can't believe I'm actually doing this. I had really no idea of where else I was going to go and what my whole plan was. I had an idea mapped out of what countries I wanted to go to. I did buy a Eurail pass, and I knew that at the time that pass gave me flexibility, I think, to go to like 21 different countries. So I had some sort of idea, but not really a set in stone plan. And that's always how I've been. I've never been someone who has a strict itinerary. I don't need to map it all out right away. And so I started traveling, and I thought I was going to go for a month and a half, and I fell in love with what travel was doing for me. And I came back home I remember it was the holidays, Christmas time. And I told my mom, okay, I'm going to go again this time, and I'm going to go for 2 months, and I'm going to go to Central America. I wanted to go somewhere warmer. I wanted to go somewhere, because I speak Spanish, that I could speak Spanish. I wanted to go somewhere that I had seen in magazines and on TV, the beautiful rainforest and colorful birds and animals and beaches. And so I always had the idea of Costa Rica in mind. And so Costa Rica was the first country I landed in Central America. And that kind of was the beginning to me hopping around the globe on and off for the next 10 years. And within the 10 years, I knew that I wanted to make the most of my experiences. People often ask me, well, how are you able to fund it? So I remember I told you I had about 20 or $25,000 when I graduated university. And yes, travel takes money, but I learned to travel on a strict budget. And also, I never worked while I was traveling because I wanted to not be distracted from my experiences. Plus, at the time, like digital nomad kind of work wasn't a thing when I first started traveling. It wasn't until about 5 years into my journey that people actually like, kind of had that mentality of travel and working. But I would come back home in between my trips, no matter how long they were. At the time, I kind of only went for, I think, maximum 2 months at the time. And I'd come back and go back to Chicago and work in restaurants and save my money again and work all these odd end jobs. I had worked in sales also for fragrances since I was 16, and that was flexible in a different region. I got paid well doing that. So they all kind of knew my schedule or my lifestyle. So I'd call my boss and I'm like back in town and they're like, sure, here's some hours. And I just really kept on going. And I just wanted to see more and do more and meet more people and have more experiences and learn more about myself. I was still young. I still had no idea what path I wanted to take in life. And as I always say, I traveled during a really prime time in the travel industry. I traveled when there was the rise in social media and the rise of the internet and the rise of technology, especially in travel. When I started traveling, I traveled with a flip phone that didn't even turn on to tell me what time it was. And you had to pay for internet places. And I had a paper map to show me around town. And I would go door to door knocking on hostels and accommodations to see if there's rooms because there wasn't a booking.com or a Hostel World app to use. So I got a really unique perspective on being a nitty gritty traveler around the world. And as I kept traveling and the industry was progressing and social media and technology was growing, that started to shape the travel industry. We saw things like Facebook and Instagram really impacting how people viewed travel and chose travel and travel technology on what people wanted and needed and used and didn't like and loved. I got to talk to travelers all around the world on why they traveled and what they were looking for. But I still personally struggled to figure out my career path. I knew what was changing. I knew what was possible. But I still didn't want to be a travel agent or a travel designer or a travel counselor, travel advisor, whatever travel kind of planner there is now or booking process there is. I didn't want to work for a company as a freelancer just to make money to travel. I didn't want to write blogs and write about travel. I don't like writing. I had a blog that actually turned out pretty well, but I'd never monetized it. I started it to let my mom know that I was alive in countries when I didn't have a phone to use, or I didn't have internet or Facebook to use. And my blog kind of became a place where I would just share tips on how I was doing it based on the questions I was getting. And that was kind of the beginning of my travel coaching before I knew it was a thing, or before the idea came to me about it being a thing. I loved sharing and empowering people on how I was able to do it, because I'd come home or people would reach out to me online or whatever it might be, and they were asking, how are you able to do this? How do you afford it? Aren't you scared? Is it safe enough? I wish I could do that. Or if I was your age, I would do that too. Or, if I didn't work in the corporate world, I would do that too. If I didn't have a job, if I didn't have a family, I'd do that too. But I kept thinking it doesn't have to be that way. Travel doesn't have to be as expensive as I heard that these trips were taking, that people were booking for others. I knew that corporate or companies should offer more vacations and people should take them. So that was kind of the beginning of me being interested in helping and empowering and inspiring people through travel, but I wasn't sure how to turn that into a business. So I always gave myself this time. I said, I said to myself, when I'm 30, I don't know why I said that, but when I'm 30, I will sit down and figure out my life, right? Just like everyone was asking me every time I'd come home, when you're going to come home and figure out your life. I'm sure many of you who are travelers got the same thing, same questions from family, loved ones, friends, teachers, whatever it might be, who said, when are you going to settle down? When are you going to come home? When are you going to have a normal life? When are you going to meet someone? When are you going to, figure out your life? But why isn't travel part of that, right? I always thought, like, why can't I? Why is it a this or that type of scenario in our life? And so when I was 30, time came, and I remember being in the north of Spain, in Bilbao, Spain, and I brought my laptop for the first time. And this was in 2017, 2018-ish. And I opened up my laptop and I Googled how to start an online business. And this was when Amazon started taking off and eBay was taking off, and Facebook was huge, and Instagram, social media started really growing. And I heard of people doing things like drop shipping. And so I had some ideas of what I wanted to do. I knew I loved the accessories that I brought home as trinkets for people. I wanted to make those available. I had different ideas I thought about, but I still had no really vision or exact idea of what I wanted to do with my travel experience and knowledge. So I, throughout my searching of how to start an online business and what kind of businesses are out there, Facebook caught on to me and saw and started pushing coaching at me. I got life coach and health coach and business coaches, and I saw that this whole world of coaching was really growing. And I said, well, that's it. I want to be a travel coach. I didn't see the word anywhere. I didn't see the term. I never heard of anyone doing it. I never saw anyone's title as travel coach, despite that there were people. Now that, years later, I've met many people who said they've been doing that for a while, which is amazing. But they said it wasn't a thing then. Like, no one really talked about it, which I totally understand. I was the same way. So I said, I'm going to be a travel coach. Well, now what does that mean? So I started figuring out, like, what do I want to help people with? What is it that makes me different, and what is it am I passionate about? And I started doing research on how healing travel can be, and collecting just documents of studies and research and data and information on the mental, physical, emotional, spiritual wellness benefits of travel that has been conducted out there. I started learning about, the corporate world and vacation policies, because I kept seeing people in Facebook groups that I was in around travel talk about how they wanted to quit their corporate job to travel, or quit the 9 to 5 to travel, or they wish they could do it, or they envy those who are able to do it. And I said, well, it became like a tagline. And I said, well, why there's such a disconnect in the corporate world? Like, why are they not realizing that travel is so valuable to people, that even corporate leaders with 6-figure jobs are quitting to travel the world? And so I started studying and learning more about the problems in the corporate world and corporate burnout, and why people were not using vacation days and vacation policies and everything like that. And that led me into the business travel industry too, and their burnout epidemic. And that's when I remembered sitting on a plane one time next to a businessman. And I was just a dirty, stinky backpacker going from Thailand to India for no purpose other than just being drawn to the culture and the food and the saris and the sparkles of their jewels and everything in India, and always wanting to go. So we sparked a conversation, and here sat this man in a business suit on the plane next to me, who had everything down on paper that people strive for, or people are told they should strive for, which is climb the corporate ladder, get a good title, have a great salary, settle down, have a family, get the white picket fence, have a home, and get paid to travel for business. Sounds amazing, right? Well, he was miserable. And he asked me about my journey around the world and what I was doing. And I really had no answers other than saying, I'm just exploring. I'm just backpacking. I'm just going place to place. And I was telling him about places I've seen in Thailand. And he's like, I've been there many times and I didn't get to see any of that stuff. I didn't do that. I wish I could. And he was envious of my life and my journey. And I said, and I remember that it shouldn't be that way either, right? If we travel for business, we travel for a purpose. And that was what sparked my interest in becoming a travel coach and specializing in wellness travel coaching for business travel and corporate wellness in the corporate world, and really just growing it from there. But when I started my travel coaching business, I had many people reaching out online asking, what is a travel coach? I might be interested. I think I heard about it, or I never heard about it. I didn't know it was a thing, or I actually might be doing it and didn't know. And that was when I then turned to Google. After I already registered my wellness travel coaching business, I turned to Google and I Googled travel coaching, and I realized that there was everything popped up about coach buses. And instead of being someone who is like, well, it's not a thing, I'm not going to do it, my mind goes the opposite direction. I believe so deeply in it. I said, you know what? I'm going to run with this. I started the Travel Coach Network, and I wanted to create a place, a program, a system, a something where other people who I knew were in similar positions to me, who loved travel, who had all this experience. I mean, they don't have to travel to 84 countries like I did, but had some sort of love for travel. Know and empower, inspire them, and guide them and teach them that they could do more with their love of travel. You don't have to just be what the industry has told you is possible, which is be a travel agent, be a travel advisor, be a flight attendant, work for a hotel, travel and get paid for business, be an influencer, be a freelancer, be a travel writer. There's other things out there. And as it grows, the industry has added more depth and meaning and purpose and transformation to why people travel. So watching the travel coaching industry grow and morph as it has been incredible. I've been growing both the Travel Coach Network and my wellness travel coaching business at the same time every single day for the past 4.5 years now. I think 4.5 years now. And not one single day have I questioned my journey, because if you find something that you're passionate enough about and you believe deeply in, and you can turn it into anything you want. So that is why I wanted to start the Travel Coach Network podcast, so I can share more of my story and my journey, because it's easier when you can hear that and see yourself in someone else's journeys and shoes and say, well, that is, I can align with that, and I want to do something like that and have that mentorship and that guidance and that community. And that's where the Travel Coach Network comes into place, and the Travel Coach Certification Program. So within this podcast, I thank you so much for listening to this first episode, and stay tuned for further episodes where I dive deeper into travel coaching itself, the travel industry, wellness travel coaching, business travel coaching, and everything like that, and everything in between. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at the Travel Coach Network, learn more at thetravelcoachnetwork.com, and send us a hello. We look forward to having you in our Facebook group, our TCN community, and hopefully having you on our show. You can find more out about the free Travel Coach Network community on Facebook in the show notes, as always, for every single episode. If you know of anyone who may be interested in travel coaching, please be sure to send them our way on the podcast, and we truly appreciate it. Until next time, my fellow wanderers and travel coaches, bye for now.